Welcome back to Gatabud. This is my Brutal Challenge, the 7th seal video. The difficulty increase on this one was substantial, and I ended up altering my setup. I moved Tifa out and I moved Aerith in because MP was an issue, and particularly on the Cactuars in round 9, I wanted to reliably be able to have re-raise on the whole entire party and Magnify Barrier, among other things, and I just felt like MP needed to be a focus, so Aerith and Yuffie are the two best in the game for that, so they accompanied Cloud, and I was able to get the win with a different strategy. So I love giving y'all different looks to give you different ideas. I don't want to just do the same thing over and over, so this is going to be fun, fresh, and different. Let's get into it. Okay, this is my setup. I did Elemental, Fire, and Ice for Cloud for offensive capabilities. I did Healing, ATB Stagger, HP Up, Limit Siphon. This is very important. Remember this when we get back to Yuffie in a little bit. I did ATB Boost and First Strike for my typical 2 ATB opener. I did Revival. Enemy skill, although I did not use the enemy skills hardly at all. I did Skill Master, ATB Assist, and then I did Warding, Poison, and Petrify. His accessory is the accessory that gives you your max limit level at the beginning of every fight. Take note of that, plus Limit Siphon. I'm on to something here. And then this is my standard Umbral Blade build, although I did not hit guard once the entire time, I think, so perhaps Bloodsucker would have been better, or not really, because you wouldn't get a lot out of Bloodsucker. I don't know, just leave it, it's whatever. Yuffie got the Crescent Sickle, and it's still in the same thing I had it for Cactuar Rush. ATB Charge Up, Opening ATB Bonus, Attack plus 20, Shuriken Mastery. Probably a better weapon build out there, but this was good enough. Just remember, you need to be good enough, not perfect. Speed Up, Barrier Magnify, and yes, I know this isn't fully upgraded, I don't care. Re-Raise, Revival, Petrify Warding. You cannot get petrified in this. And then right here, I did Spirit Up and Vitality Up, and upon further review, I probably would have put these two up here and then done Elemental Fire right here to help survive a couple of these fights, particularly round 10. The Flame Zoo at the end was quite the doozy. And then I did have Swift Cast Healing. When I needed it, it was great, but I didn't use it a ton, believe it or not. And then HP Up and MP Up. The accessory is the Enhanced Karmic Cowl, which is defense plus 50, spirit plus 50, and it blocks instant death. Although there isn't any instant death here, it was mainly for the defensive stats. And then Aerith, going back to the fact that I had Limit Siphon, okay, there's this thing too, Limit Support Materia. And what that does is Aerith's limit gauge does not grow at all, and it sends Aerith's limit to Cloud and Yuffie. So Cloud is designed to constantly be limit siphoning Yuffie and firing off a ton of level 3 limits back to back to back to back to back, and that was kind of my secret sauce for beating a lot of this stuff. So she got the ATB boost and First Strike. I wanted to start every fight as Aerith with Hastiga and ATB Ward and go from there. And then ATB Stagger. She got Magic Efficiency and Re-Raise, although I did not cast Re-Raise once without having the infinite MP buff. And then time and magnify for the Hastiga. And then this looked like it would be better than it would in the beginning. I did it to help take out the flying enemies, but in reality, Yuffie ended up doing that with ninjutsu. So I probably would have put her with elemental fire as defense as well, because fire ended up being kind of a big deal in this thing. So if I could do that over, I would have done that as well. And then obviously healing, and I put magnify healing. And you might notice I don't have a single auto cast because I needed to have complete and total control of the ATB bar and just pay attention. Auto cast is not for these brutal challenges, in my opinion. And then lastly, I have MP up, HP up. The Gambitian things are what I had for the Cactuar challenge as well. Spiritual Harvest, Magic Attack plus 20, Reprieve, and ATB charge rate up. And then she got the Ribbon as her accessory because I don't have any warding, and Ribbon also helps with spell interruption down, so that was also very helpful. Round 1 is annoying, but it is not difficult. I start these battles in a very similar fashion, getting established with all of my various buffs and using the ATB boost to get free ATB at the start. When the crab is spitting out bubbles, it's going to turn you into a frog, so you want to try to wait for your opportunity to go in and just take out the crab very quickly. As long as you're not a frog, it's very easy, and then you're left to deal with the Golem one-on-one. I really like ATB and Radiant Wards from Aerith, particularly because not only are they very helpful, but if Aerith gets knocked out, they're still there when you revive her, so it's not like you have to reapply the wards. The other always-on buff that I want is Haste, and I have Magnify on that, so I want to apply that as well. And then on most of these fights, I'm trying to get Aerith and Yuffie to both have 3 synergy credits to use their infinite MP move, and then I'm really getting established. Once they're all set, I can start throwing re-rays on everyone. I can start using MP-free mana wall to have all of my damage. I can start spamming Curaga. A lot of great things happen when I have infinite MP. Additionally, I can go on the offensive and start casting high-tier spells without burning MP as well. When all of those buffs are up, Yuffie does an incredible job at feeding ATB to the entire party by standing inside that ward and using her ranged attacks or ninjutsu. And it's once I'm established like this that I'm very hard to beat at this point as long as I'm paying attention. There isn't really a trick to pressure the Golem as far as I can tell. It just kind of happens over time once it wears itself out. But you can still deal a ton of damage to this thing and be pretty quick in this round. Once you finish off this Golem, it's on to round 2. The fact that you have a legitimately harder battle in round 2 tells you everything you need to know about this brutal challenge. I like to start my battle getting established like every other one, but with a little bit of twist. I want to use Cloud's AB boost and then wait for the big guy to pressure himself and dodge his attack. If you dodge Wallop, he'll belly flop into the ground, and then you can quickly do 2 focus thrusts, and as long as Kid G doesn't mess with you, you'll almost instantly stagger this dude and take him out. I think on this one, I just forgot to use ATB boost. I don't know why Cloud only has 1 focus thrust here. Anyways, that cost me like 30 seconds against the big guy, and we're on to Kid G one-on-one. As you can see, you don't have to get off to a perfect start here, but I get him staggered and then he quickly goes down, and then I can resume getting fully established with my various buffs for Kid G. Now, Kid G in particular is ironically easier if you only had one character, as I demonstrated in my Tifa Legendary bout video. So we have to deal with him actually getting his attacks off and not successfully dodging. The AI overwhelmingly favors to use guard instead of dodge, which is what causes this guy problems. The way that you pressure this guy is to dodge Sledgehammer and then quickly deal damage to him following that. When he sledgehammers somebody you're not controlling, it just is what it is and you gotta deal with it. The move Goblin Beatdown also has a similar mechanic, but he doesn't go up in the air to dodge that. He just kind of goes at you. So you want to try to dodge that and quickly deal damage also. When he successfully gets these things off, he starts to build an aura, and when it gets purple, you need to have re-raise and all your buffs up by then, because he's going to whammo you and somebody's going to take a quick nap. Now, the good news with Whammo is his auras will reset and he will get back to his initial not Super Saiyan state. Now, the remainder of this fight is a good time for me to just talk about the limit siphon strategy that I'm employing. Aerith does not charge limit. Instead, she distributes limit to Yuffie and Cloud. While I could build Yuffie's limit level by doing synergy skills with Cloud, I view this as largely a waste of time, and instead I just want to siphon all of Yuffie's limit to constantly spam Cloud's level 3 limit. There's a couple of nuances to this, but one of the important things to do is if Cloud or Yuffie has full limit and you're about to stagger an enemy, you should go ahead and do the limit siphon and fire off Cloud's limit and let that be the act that staggers the enemy. Otherwise, you are leaving limit gauge on the table and doing yourself a disservice. Now, that's of course as long as you have the battle under control and there isn't a dire need to immediately stagger the. Secondly, if this fight is under control and either Yuffie or Aerith is below 70% MP during the stagger, you want to go ahead and use their MP restoration moves before you finish off the enemy and go on to the next battle. Aerith recovers MP using Soul Drain, and Yuffie recovers MP by using Purification level 2 or 3. If Yuffie has 2 ATB charges and is still at Purification level 2, you can fire off a Shooting Star to try to get one last attempt at going up to level 3 before you use Purification. Now back to me being frustrated and trying to finish off Kid G. Far from my best performance against this guy, but it gave me a good time to explain some of my battle philosophies, so all is well. I know that one more limit break will send me to round 3, so I do the limit siphon. Ideally, everyone would be above 50% health, but the next fight is not mission critical, so it's okay that they're not. I'm on to round 3. Let us continue. Round 3 is the first round in which, if you listened to me during the materia section and flipped your elementals to fire defense, that it will pay dividends here. For the life of me, I don't know why I felt like making my life harder by eating a bunch of fireballs and flamethrowers from this dragon. We're doing a pretty standard setup for buffs, and they are both weak to ice, I believe. So get Ice Ninjutsu up and focus on the Sea Dragon and let the dragon that's making my life miserable be your white mage and heal you. If the fire dragon isn't constantly messing with you, then the sea dragon is very easy to get rid of quickly, and that would be the one messing with you trying to take out the dragon. One thing the sea dragon does that's particularly annoying is try to eat your characters. They get bound in his jaws and start taking a bunch of damage, and it messes with whatever you're trying to do at that moment. Seriously though, watching this back is honestly rough. It is crazy to me that I had to resort to using a noble sacrifice by Aerith to mount a comeback here. My run should have ended at this point. I got lucky. I would not be in this dire situation if the Fire Dragon's Flames had been healing me. We would already be on to one-on-one with the dragon. But there is value in me showing you how to mount a comeback and come back from the brink, and that's what we're doing here. Yuffie is the real MVP because you can dodge and get ATB from a distance and try to take 0 damage while you start raising other characters. And her MP is a little more expendable because of the purification move. And the act of doing all these things to get your characters back will build your purification charges to get some of that MP back as well. Managing to finish a stagger on an enemy is a partial get out of jail free card. You can use that time to get everyone else up. Now, one of the other benefits to having a rocky start and having to do a bunch of raises is the fact that you end up getting a lot of limit charges to Cloud and Yuffie. So once you have successfully mounted your comeback, then you can start firing off limits and you quickly start dominating these battles. The Sea Dragon in particular can be taken out completely in one stagger if you were prepared and you had all of your buffs and charges ready to go. And at this point I realize I've been calling Sea Devil Sea Dragon, so a little clarification there, don't get that mixed up, sorry. Now, better late than never, I'm able to get established, I'm able to take out the Sea Devil, and I am one-on-one against the dragon, and now all is well. And I'm going to use this opportunity to get my MP that I wasted back, get my dignity back, hopefully, and move on to round 4. Finally, a little bit of relief here. We've got kind of the same thing we had in round 1 with the Golem, but instead we have a bird messing with us instead of a crab that turns you into a frog. You want to get your standard buffs here, and the good news is both of these things are weak to wind, so Cloud's Sonic Boom is good here, Yuffie's Wind Ninjutsu is good here, Aerith casting Arrow is good here. You've got a lot of good things going for you, and especially the bird goes down very quickly and is very easy to stagger. So this is a get right round for me after a couple of rocky rounds there. I blame my overall poor start on these rounds to me being frustrated and this being like my 12th attempt after a bunch of very deep runs into this challenge. This Golem is literally the exact same mechanics as the one from round 1. So very familiar. Eventually it'll stagger, and then once it does, all of its defenses go down and you get a very, very quick win. And with that, I will see you in round 5. Round 5 is kind of weird. It's not particularly difficult most of the time, but the Suevite Disgorgon has just a ton of health and just takes a while to take down. So this is going to be one of your longer rounds, but not necessarily a super dangerous one. Because of the duration of this battle, though, and the fact that the Oriman can and will get some kills on you, I do the full buffs, including re-raise, because at this point I don't want to start over because I'm careless. The Disgorgon is weak to ice, so I try to get a lot of ice ninjutsu action going and try to start building the limit gauges and get some staggers and whatnot. And I'm kind of just going to ignore the Oriman and just get rid of this guy, which is a little bit of the reverse of what I typically do. I typically go for the fast guy first, but for whatever reason, I just felt more comfortable getting rid of the Disgorgon first in this particular battle. When the Disgorgon uses its breath moves, it will expose a weak spot briefly to attack its jaw. Try your best to take advantage of that. It will make your life a lot easier. Because we have the warding materials linked to Petrify and or utilizing a ribbon accessory, though, the actual petrification threat is non-existent here. It's just going to take a while to win, that's all. The real pain is when the Oriman starts doing its rain move, though, especially if it's in the middle of all of Aerith's wards. That can really mess with you, so having mana wall up for this is extremely helpful, or else you're going to be casting Raise a lot. You're going to find yourself casting a lot of Curagas, so getting that infinite MP up is super helpful in this fight. One of the nice byproducts of getting hit by that rain move a bunch, though, is your limit gauges will build, and once they're finally there and you can start doing your limit siphon, this battle will start to accelerate significantly and you can get rid of the Disgorgon. That right there is really the main rational argument as to why go for the Disgorgon first instead of the Oriman in this case. It's to help you build limit. And at this point, I'm finally able to limit siphon and really get this thing going. You see me already starting to throw up some wards on Aerith. The Arcane Ward is going to come in very handy, so you want to definitely get that up now and get prepared to start dealing a lot of damage very quickly. I do think it's pretty wild, though, that a full stagger and a full assault did only a fraction of the Disgorgon's health. At this point, I'm trying to finalize my preparations for dealing a lot of damage by getting the infinite MP synergy move off, and the Oriman is going to almost take out Aerith in that process. And I got really lucky because of reprieve here that she didn't go down, and I'm ready to start throwing Thundagas like crazy with infinite MP. What's going to end up happening here, though, is while I intended to start hurling Thundagas at the Oriman, the Disgorgon is going to expose its weak point at a really good time for me, and I'm gonna go off script here and send the Thundaras at the Disgorgon instead to pressure it. I've found the main roadblock to pressuring the Disgorgon is just dealing enough damage to the jaw in the short amount of time that you have to actually take it out, and I'm able to do that successfully here. At the end of this stagger, I know the Disgorgon is severely damaged, and my full focus is going to shift quickly to this Oriman and get back to what I was intending to do, which was throw Thundagas at the Oriman. If this sequence shows anything, it's to take advantage of the opportunities that the battle presents itself to you, whether or not it's exactly what you were intending to do in that moment. If it's a valuable act that can help you win, by all means go off script and go ahead and do it. Since Yuffie didn't have any elemental magic materia equipped, I just start using Quakega with her while she has infinite MP, just to have something to cast, and that also works pretty well. Other characters can get the benefit of Aerith's Arcane Ward by standing in it and casting, so even Cloud could hypothetically start casting Blizzards here to get the weakness on the Disgorgon, but I try to be very conservative with Cloud's MP and only use it on a need basis. Now, watching this back, what I should have done is finish off the Disgorgon with Yuffie and Aerith's synergy move to get infinite MP again, and then keep throwing Thunderbolts. But a minor tactical error on my part. We are on to round 6 after quite a long battle. If you find any good ways to speed this one up, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Round 6 on paper is a lot easier than a lot of the rounds, but if you're not careful, this one can still end your run if you play sloppy. You want to definitely go for the dragon first and utilize its wind weakness to your advantage to get rid of that, because it's going to be messing with you a lot. And then other than that, you want to steer clear of the big guy and just try not to get hit by any of his moves. One thing the big guy likes to do in particular is mess with you dropping your wards early in the battle as Aerith, so I make a point to try to dodge that guy effectively before I drop ATB ward. The big guy also casts Firaga, so we're revisiting the argument of why did I not put elemental fire in the build here. If I could do that over, I would have done elemental fire drain. You're going to want to keep your HP high here because the big guy can deal a lot of damage very quickly, especially to characters that you're not playing as and not paying attention on. There's a lot going on here. The Mystic Dragon more than likely is going to get taken out by a limit break based on how this fight tends to go. And once that one's down and you can shift focus to the big guy, you want to try to stagger him, and the easiest way I've found is by unleashing a limit break when he's like 50% staggered or something like that, because it'll just go ahead and stagger him before he can use that really annoying concentrate move. You can technically break through that concentration move, but it's kind of hard to do, and it rarely actually plays out in practice. I've found if you found a good way to do it, let me know in the comments, but the best way is just limit break and brute force your way through. Once staggered, this guy's defenses seem to drastically drop, and you will take him out very quickly, and I will see you in the next round. Have I mentioned yet how much I hate that there's not elemental fire in my build during this battle? This could have been the easiest round in all of this challenge, but my stubbornness made this one of the hardest instead. I'm here dealing with this bomb just demolishing me with fire damage right now, and it really didn't have to be this way. It shouldn't have been this way. If you listen to me and do fire defense, this one's going to be a cakewalk, and you want to just take out the scorpion first while soaking up all the flames. But when this blue bomb puts fire on the floor, like, that's an opportunity for you to just soak up damage over time as cures, essentially. It's like a super regen. So I don't see how you can lose this round if you're absorbing fire damage. Now, me, on the other hand, being a bonehead, I want to take out the bomb first because he is severely messing with me instead, and this bomb is a massive issue. It constantly messes with everything you try to do. It covers your wards with flames and makes you unable to access them. Like, everything that I can think of about an annoying enemy, this bomb is that for me right now. I guess the one good thing I can say about the fact that I'm taking a ton of damage, though, is I'm building limit at an extreme speed here and firing off cloud level 3 limits like they're going out of style. If you're absorbing fire, I would stick to only using barrier to take care of the scorpion's physical attacks, because I wouldn't want to reduce the amount of fire healing that I'm getting by using mana wall. But it's shocking how close I came to losing here because I was taking way too much damage. But this should be a cakewalk for you. I will see you in round 8. This round is the one round that this setup is the weakest in, because it's extraordinarily difficult to get established with your buffs and your wards and everything else before the sandworm starts to swallow you. So if you're going to lose, it's probably going to be this round, and I figured out a couple of weird details about this, especially after the fact watching this film back, that I wanted to share my observations with you on. The first thing to note is the Deathclaw gets pressured by you evading Reaper Claws, so you want to pressure it and then only try to attack it while it's pressured and just sitting there waiting for you. And then there's the sandworm constantly trying to eat you, and that's really the biggest problem. Before I get to how to effectively dodge the sandworm, I need to explain what's going on here where I'm about to lose with just Aerith left standing. The sandworm kind of got Cloud without me even seeing it coming, and then shortly after that, Yuffie gets knocked out as well. And this turns out to oddly be a blessing in disguise. Because of my decision to not put Revive on Aerith, which is questionable, I will say, the only way I can get people back up is by using Noble Sacrifice. And in taking that time to get the full 2 ATB charges, something very interesting here happens. I believe that the swallow mechanics only take effect if there are more than one living option to swallow. So by Yuffie going down, that made her unable to be swallowed, and therefore when it was time to do the second swallow, the worm instead spit out Cloud. And it just so happened to be at the luckiest moment possible, where Noble Sacrifice had already been charging, because I thought I was just getting Yuffie up and trying to produce a miracle, and I managed to hit Cloud and Yuffie with Noble Sacrifice here. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but now that we have kind of established this pattern, though, you can make decisions on how to deal with things, and there might be an argument to strategically let somebody who's almost dead just go ahead and die anyways, and then force the sandworm to spit back up your other character if things are going poorly. So now, knowing what I know, and Cloud being last man standing, I believe that reviving Yuffie here was actually a mistake, and I should have just done a Cura on Cloud instead and gotten my ATB very high. The clear rationale here is to get Yuffie back to get her limit and then fire off another limit and try to get rid of this Deathclaw that is just driving me crazy. Had I left Yuffie dead, though, I suspect that Aerith would have been spit out around this time, and I could have done a double raise right after that. But something cool happened here, though, where the worm was trying to swallow Cloud in the middle of his limit break, and the limit break blocked the worm from getting that off. So that's really cool as well. You can dodge swallow with limit. I'm struggling enough where I decide that I have to bring out Bahamut, and I need to just burn a synergy skill to do damage here to try to get this Dark Claw down. At this point, my primary worry is Yuffie legitimately running out of MP and being unable to raise people, so I'm having to make decisions on raise versus rise, and then knowing I can't afford to cure. It's a mess. But luckily I'm able to get this Dark Claw down and focus on the worm. Partially thanks to Bahamut, I'm able to just squeeze this one out. Once the claw gets staggered and goes down, over 5 minutes into this battle, I finally am in the driver's seat and I have control. Oh, and the worm again spit out a character while I had a dead character at the perfect moment. So another confirmation of my theory about getting a character back for free. But how do we try to dodge and prevent from getting swallowed in the first place? First off, Cloud really stinks at dodging the swallow move by the sandworm, but he's more than capable of dodging Reaper Claws from the Deathclaw. Looking back at this, if Aerith is about to get swallowed and you're outside your ward, press triangle at the right time to teleport back into your ward will be an elite way to dodge the sandworm swallow. And lastly, Yuffie can dodge the sandworm effectively just by pressing circle, but if you want to take a step forward, Brumal Form should work on that as well. In my book, though, there's no such thing as an ugly win if you win, and that's all you need to do here, and there will be plenty of opportunities to get your MP back at the end and move on to round 9, which it's going to get a lot easier after this now. Round 9 is what made me abandon my earlier setup where I was using Tifa instead of Aerith. I was always out of MP here, and I just did not have the juice to be able to constantly raise myself after eating 10k needles, and this thing was driving me crazy. So I completely redesigned my setup and strategy for these brutal challenges, inspired by this battle, because I wanted to make sure that I had enough MP to cast Magnify Curaga and Magnify Mana Wall to try to do something about the crazy amount of damage you take. Because your characters you're not controlling do not try to evade 10k needles. They just start to guard it and think they're going to eat 10,000 damage like it's no big deal. But if you mana wall it, it becomes 5,000, and that's within the range of surviving. So if you keep their HP high, keep the wall up, on paper, this starts to get extremely easy, and on top of that, you start building limit at like a crazy speed as well, and you're not having to revive your characters. So this battle, by making those changes, went from extremely difficult to extremely easy, and that's why I did this switch. And I knew that the sandworm battle was going to really stink, but if I could get past it, I'd have the rest of this challenge in the bag. So getting your buffs up here is crucial. You need to do it as quickly as possible. You need to keep HP high, and when these Cactuars start the battle, they're only using 1,000 needles to get going. So that gives you an opportunity to build some ATB, get established, and get ready to really have a dominant performance here, which is exactly what I do. I did exactly what I wanted to do in this battle. You should really make a point here on trying to get the infinite MP synergy skill off, because that's going to make your life extremely easier here, being able to just spam Curaga at your leisure. Furthermore, when I get that buff up, I immediately use Mana Wall at the beginning, and then I keep track of when it's about to wear off, and then I use Mana Wall again to try to extend the amount of time that I'm getting free half damage as far as the MP cost goes. And then getting level 3 limits off with Cloud just puts extreme offensive pressure on these guys, and it really turns the battle into your favor. And when you're firing off these limits, you're in complete control. They're not acting. They get their 10k needles straight up interrupted, and then you can switch to Aerith, teleport to your ward, start sniping these guys, or with Yuffie, build ATB, and then you're put in a terrific position here defensively and offensively to really just wreck this battle. And it's so easily controllable once you understand these nuances. And then there's also spamming re-raise with infinite MP. And it looks like I didn't end up needing that here, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. But we are on to round 10. Let's get it. And I'm beating a dead horse again, but elemental fire defense, why did I not do that? I feel like the Ember Zoo would have turned into a white mage here. Instead, it was a massive problem. Now, if you watched my legendary videos already, you've seen a one-on-one battle against this Genova type enemy, and it has an instant kill move when it's in the duplication stage. So whenever I see instant kill moves, no matter how annoying the other enemy is, I have to focus on the killer and try to get rid of it. Now, the one caveat though is if you don't damage it at all, I don't believe that it will clone itself. So if you wanted to go for the Ember Zoo first, you can, as long as you make sure that you don't damage this Genova thing. But the Genova thing likes to use Firaga, and then there's the Ember Zoo as well. So it's like, why the heck am I not using Elemental Fire here? I don't have a good explanation for that, but I'm able to compensate regardless. But this battle is going to be pretty long, and you need to be smart, and the infinite MP synergy skill is what's really going to carry you through this. At this point, I'm fully established buff-wise, and I am trying to destroy Genova's arm at all costs, and that will pressure it and allow me to deal some damage. If you can't get established, though, and get buffed, and especially if you're not using Elemental Fire, this battle is going to end very quickly and not in the way that you want it to end quickly. Nothing makes me more mad, though, than trying to fire off a focus thrust only for an enemy that's not even visible in my screen to hit me from behind and interrupt. For those reasons, trying to do a better job than I did of keeping track of where the zoo is and when it's going to attack when you're trying to use ATB actions is definitely something you want to consider trying to do. But I know there's a lot going on, and in practice, that is not always as easy as I say it is after watching it back as an armchair quarterback. But now we're in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and we've got to deal with them quickly to try to avoid getting the instant death move. Now, one thing about instant death, though, I don't know if it's single target or whole party. I didn't want to find out. If you found out, let me know in the comments, and I'm very sorry that you found out. I'm just trying to fire off as many of these level 3 limits as I possibly can, and luckily the gauges are building back very quickly, but I feel like it's even not quick enough. And I just am trying to get through this and take out clones as quickly as possible. The one good thing I can say about the clones, though, is they appear at whatever health the main one was at the moment that it clones. So, like, you're going to start seeing later on in this battle, like, clones that are, like, almost dead right out of the gate. So, at that point, you just want them caught in the blast radius of your limit break. Right here is where things start to go really south for me, and it is Exhibit A of triple re-raise really paying dividends and bailing me out, and why it's worth that extra effort trying to use it on all 3 characters while you have infinite MP, because all 3 party members are going to go down within about a minute of each other and all get re-raised, and I'm able to press on and recover. My one regret is I let a fully charged level 2 Tempest go to waste, and I was never able to get that back. And what was a particularly big deal here is right after Yuffie was re-raised, Cloud was ready to drain her freshly filled limit gauge from getting KO'd and get back on track very quickly and stun these guys and build ATB on the freshly re-raised other party members. And it's wild to me that at this point the Genova enemy is still at like half health, like almost 5 minutes in, but I'm making progress. It just sometimes it's hard to see. And I again lose Aerith at a terrible moment when I'm trying to use the infinite MP synergy skill, but the silver lining here is I'm able to fire off another limit break and press on and get Aerith back up and try again on infinite MP. But also Yuffie goes down next, and it's just a vicious cycle trying to recover and get reestablished. I'm finally able to make a breakthrough here at near 6 minutes into this battle. Finally able to get Genova down, get all 3 characters up, and I realize that I can win this. I've said this in many battles before, but there's really a lot of value in pressing X and entering your action menu and just putting some thought into your next action before you just fire something off and just breathe for a second. And that's what I'm doing here, even though I've just kind of been through the ringer, and I throw up one more time and it's time to finish the drill. This Ember Zoo is down to 25% health just from getting caught in the blast radius of all of the limit breaks that Cloud had been spamming. And it's pretty amazing how manageable it is to deal with one-on-one versus when you have multiple Genova clones also on your rear end. Regardless, though, I'm not taking any chances, and I'm also not necessarily worried about MP at this point, finally, for the first time in this challenge. I can really let it rip and just cast Curaga and not really care. I could even throw out re-raise here if I wanted to. Like, everything's on the table at this point. you don't get an award for finishing this battle with a ton of MP left over. It doesn't matter, so use it or lose it. Now, one thing that I struggled with here was even just getting Limit Siphon off. I let myself get interrupted. You can see me yelling, "Come on," at the screen. Like, I almost blew this battle. I know that once I get this thing off, though, it's game over, and I've finally climbed the mountaintop after making about 12 deep runs and losing to these last couple battles, and I am stoked. Let's go. And what is your reward for all of this? An absolutely useless MP Materia earring. I just, for the life of me, pick better rewards. Thank you so much for joining me on this video and the channel. There are more brutal and legendary challenges on the way, so make sure to subscribe to Gatabud. I will see you again soon. Can't wait to finish this.